So hi everyone, I hope you're doing well today. Looking forward to our short session, Dharma session. So we can do the chanting straight away. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Buddham saranam gacchami, Dhammam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi Buddham saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi Dhammam saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi Sangham saranam gacchami, Tatayampi Buddham saranam gacchami, Tatayampi Dhammam saranam gacchami, Tatayampi Sangham saranam gacchami. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May they be free from suffering and its causes. May they never be parted from the happiness beyond suffering. May they abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment to the near, and aversion from the far. I shall cause this. Great compassionate Buddha, please inspire me to be able to do so. Reverently, I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind, and present clouds of every types of offerings, actual and mentally transformed. I confess all of my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time, and rejoice in all the virtues of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until cyclic existence ends, and turn the wheel of Dharma for all sentient beings. I dedicate the virtues of myself and others to the great enlightenment. However innumerable all sentient beings are, I vow to save them all. However inexhaustible my delusions are, I vow to extinguish them all. However immeasurable the Dharma teachings are, I vow to master them all. However endless the Buddha's way is, I vow to follow it completely. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Tayata gati gati parasamgati bodhiso. Tayata gati parasamgati bodhiso. Tayata gati parasamgati bodhiso. So now straight into the meditations. Get yourself nice and comfortable. Nice and balanced physically. And gently close your eyes, lips gently touching, tongue resting on the upper palate, in the mouth. And bring your mind inside your body, from the tips of the toes, all the way up your legs and up to your shoulders, to the tips of your fingers, and then back up to the top of your head. In that order, you can go through the body and release whatever tension you have as you focus on the different parts of the body. So let's take a short while to do this now. Once you've got to the top of your head, scan the body again, just briefly, to see if there's any more tension you can release. Now bring your mind initially to the tip of your nose and follow the feeling of the breath as you breathe all the way into your lungs and back out your nose again. That's all you have to do right now, is breathe physically and mentally place your mind on the feeling of this breathing or the breath. You may also like to add the extra technique of counting to 10. 1 in breath, 1 out breath is 1, and so on. Not past 10. And if you get distracted on the way to 10, then go back to 1 at that time. So if thoughts arise or any mental activity arises, don't cling to it. Don't grasp at it. Also, don't try to force it away or deny it, but simply let it go naturally by replacing your mind back onto your breath. And if your mind starts to become dull or sleepy, then replace your mind onto your breath more brightly. This way, replacing your mind onto your breath is the antidote for both the distracted and agitated mind, as well as the dull and sleepy mind. So let's practice like this in silence for a little bit. So now we can feel pleased with ourselves for engaging in this session. Let's fill ourselves with universal loving kindness, friendship, respect, appreciation, and so on. You can utilize the feeling only, or you can also utilize visualization, visualizing yourself being filled with white light or white nectar. Really generate this loving kindness in your own heart and radiate it, extend it inwards to yourself. Fill yourself with so much loving kindness that it now overflows and radiates outwards, initially to your loved ones, family and friends, filling them too with this universal loving kindness, wishing that they're happy, free from suffering, and are peaceful. Gradually, further and further now, radiate your loving kindness out to also include strangers. Further still, to now include those you may regard as enemies, those people that you find very difficult or behave very badly. May all of these people have happiness and its causes. May they be free from suffering and its causes. May they be peaceful, free from conflict. So now let's radiate further and further distance-wise, initially around your immediate area, to all living beings, those that live on the land or under the land, in the waters, fly through the air, whether they're born from wombs, eggs, moisture, or through transformation. All sentient beings, whether weak or strong, great or small, short or tall, seen or unseen, near or distant, born or to be born. Fill them with this universal loving kindness. Wish that they are happy, free from suffering, and peaceful. And now radiate throughout your entire state or county, and to all the living beings that abide here. And throughout other states and counties throughout your whole country. Your radiation of the loving kindness now is gathering so much momentum. Now to other countries, those you're familiar with and have an affinity towards, those that you're indifferent towards, and those that for whatever reason you may have some negative feelings towards. And have your loving kindness also pervade throughout the oceans, throughout this whole world, right to the core of the earth and to the outermost atmosphere. And beyond this planet alone, throughout the whole solar system. And the whole galaxy. And throughout the whole universe and beyond, until your loving kindness pervades throughout infinite space. We are all interconnected, interrelated. And now we will switch techniques to the giving-taking meditation. If any of you haven't been partaking in the class regularly, I think it was probably about maybe a month or two ago. You can look it up on the YouTube channel and watch the video again. I actually gave quite in-depth instruction on this meditation. But for convenience, to do with how short our sessions are, then I'm only giving a little bit of instruction right now. So fill your heart with universal compassion. Bring to mind the difficulties and sufferings of others. And from the bottom of your heart, wish to alleviate it or them. To free all sentient beings from suffering. And we will do some visualization along with this to help us to achieve this in our mind. Generate the bodhicitta intention, a great altruistic intention that wishes to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings and to lead them to do likewise. So visualize as many beings as you can in front of you. Don't try to make it too complicated right now. Just know that all the living beings are there in front of you. And when you breathe in, when you inhale, black smoke comes from their heart center, freeing them from suffering and the causes of suffering, and enters into your heart center, melts away your ego and self-centeredness. When you exhale or breathe out, white light goes from your heart center into their heart center. The white light representing all of your meritorious goodness, good karma, good conditions, everything you find pleasurable, and you're giving it or giving them to others. To all beings, the white light enters into their heart centers. So let's practice like this for a little bit, breathing in, breathing out. Taking the suffering of others, giving all of your happiness and the like. Freeing them from suffering, helping them to be happy and peaceful, while at the same time diminishing initially and eventually destroying your ego, your self-centeredness, which doesn't exist ultimately anyway. That's why we can purify it. Practice helps us to develop or generate and then develop further and further our compassion, as well as helping to unveil our true nature and realize the supreme wisdom. Breathing in, breathing out. So now cease the visualization And once again, feel very pleased with yourself. And right now, I encourage you to do longer sessions when you do these meditations, even if it's only a little bit. So now let's do the dedication prayer. Due to this merit, may I soon attain the enlightened state of the Buddha, so that I may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious bodhicitta not yet born arise and grow. May that born have no decline but increase forevermore. And may the precious view of shunyata not yet born arise and grow. May that born have no decline but increase forevermore. And so, as you know, we are having the commentary on the 8 verses of thought transformation, which we started, I think, the first Saturday in February. So now it's 3.5 months into it. And we'll just continue, no time limits. As you know, in the beginning, I introduced it to you, and each verse, and then, of course, did a couple of overviews. The first one, reasonably detailed overview, and the second one, more details. And now, of course, we're having the detailed commentary on each of the verses. We're up to number 1. And I think today is part 4, I think, of the commentary. And I'm mentioning some things that we need to consider, while we practice this, while we develop this bodhicitta, this great compassion, this altruistic intention. And so considering certain things. And once again, if you want to review the classes, do so. The easier way, or the easiest way, is on the YouTube channel. Okay, so you can just, with each video, I post the text with it, which includes what the class covered, and also the preliminary prayers are on there as well. Okie dokie. So now I'll just continue today. So we're up to the last bit of what I called the first consideration, and then we'll start the second consideration in a few minutes, okay? The verse, by the way, is, with the wish to attain enlightenment for the welfare of all sentient beings who are more precious than a wish-fulfilling jewel, I will constantly practice holding them dear, right? Not just words, by the way, even though they're quite short, these verses, very deep, though. That's why we need detailed commentary, because at some other time, maybe this type of text, not written in verse form or spoken in verse form, would actually be like a whole paragraph or a whole chapter of a book, for each verse, or maybe a whole book. Each verse can be a whole book, so that's why we do give the commentary. So first of all, I reiterate how I finished last week. We all sentient beings now, not just human beings, and not even ones we don't know about, and even ones, of course, that we can't perceive them. We cannot even perceive the human realm, for instance, and the animal with our eyes, but we can think about all these living beings, whether we know about them or not, whether we recognize them or not. We all want happiness. So we all must engage in the causes of happiness to achieve this. We all want to be free from suffering. So we need to avoid causing suffering. Quite simple in words, but we have pretty thick habits, so many lifetimes. And even if thinking about so many lifetimes is difficult for some people, then just think of this lifetime. How many moments have you had in this lifetime? How many breaths have you breathed? How many thoughts have you had? How many actions have you engaged in? How many words have you spoken or even listened to? You can see that this is like immeasurable, innumerable, uncountable, really. So we all want happiness and want to avoid suffering. Now, I mentioned that we should always engage, or do our very best to always engage in the 2 benefits: benefiting yourself and benefiting others, or vice versa. To benefit yourself truly, you must benefit others. And as you benefit others, you are benefiting yourself. Sounds like a riddle, but it's not. Then, of course, we must consider the impacts of our actions on others and on ourselves. So consider the impact of our thoughts. Our wholesome thoughts bring good results, desirable results. Our unwholesome thoughts will bring undesirable results for ourselves and others. Our wholesome actions bring good results, unwholesome, but not good results or bad results. Then same with the words. So really be careful in what we think. Always check your mind, check your intention, what we do physically, and what we say. To do with speech, always bring to mind, or often bring to mind, that we only ever really speak to communicate with others. Otherwise, it's best to remain silent, isn't it? And like I like to say often, it's likewise with the mind. If we're telling ourselves stories in the mind, and the mind states are not conducive to bringing happiness, then stop that. Quieten the mind. Make sure it's wholesome. Okay, so repay the kindness of others, whether they are friends, strangers, or enemies, or you regard them as these three types of people. But actually, this distinguishing is actually in your own mind. They are sentient beings that are going through their own stuff, having their own mind states, whether wholesome, unwholesome, or neutral. We ourselves can protect our mind. We can protect our body too, but definitely the mind. 6 paramitas, practice the 6 paramitas. Be generous, be moral, patient, enthusiastic, and persevere in the right direction. Develop this concentration and realize the wisdom. Okay, wisdom and compassion. The second consideration, or I should say, all beings have been our mothers in the past. Even if that's hard to understand, what a great way to base our, or idea to base our practice on. Eh? I think we all are going to be kind to our mothers, even if you had some difficult experiences throughout your life. Some people in the past have actually said, oh, I didn't get on with mum or dad or whatever. And I said, but still, they have been kind to you, giving you the birth, the life. It's always going to be a little bit awkward for you mentally if you hang on to these grudges. Replace them with kindness. Replace them with acceptance, and so on. The second consideration, through analysis and contemplation, you can see much of our suffering is actually the result of our self-centered attitude. So now utilize in your own time the vipassana technique, penetrative insight technique, to contemplate, to investigate, analyze what I just mentioned. Our suffering. Much of this suffering is easy. Once we get it a little bit into the mind, we can actually perceive quite easily how we can diminish it at that moment. Some of the sufferings are obviously physical, mental, take more time to overcome, okay? But ultimately, they are not real, you could say. That's why I like to say they are shy. As soon as you pay pure awareness or replace them with the positive mind state, then they melt away at that moment. They may come back through habits, and then you have to be consistent in your practice. So we can perceive that much of our suffering right now, we can at least alleviate a bit of it by not reacting to it, and then reacting to the reaction, and so on. Because if you continue to do that, it becomes overwhelming. Then it's a bit harder to unwind, We cherish our own well-being at the expense of others. And this causes our suffering. This is part of the causing of our suffering. Whereas the joy the happiness, sense of security, we achieve that when we cherish the well-being of others above ourselves. Very difficult to understand for most people, this type of thing. Got to look after yourself. Got to put yourself above others. But this causes tension in your mind. It causes suffering. But having joy in the successes of others, having joy, you could say, in their happiness, and when they are free from suffering and wanting to do the best we can to have this happen, this causes joy in our heart. To put it simply, it feels nice. And I think we all like to feel nice. Maybe for some people that sounds boring, but I think it's what we all are after. Of course, from a Buddhist perspective, we want to go beyond all this and achieve what we call enlightenment. But right now, work your way towards being more happy, helping others to be more happy, to avoiding the suffering, helping others to do likewise, and so on. So I think that'll do for that. When we put others above ourselves, we cause our own happiness, actually. So reflecting on these two ways of thinking, the two considerations, as I called it, will convince us of the need to regard others' well-being as precious, as mentioned in the verse. How can it be the opposite of that? Imagine if we had a mind that was always wishing the worst on others. Most of the time, I think we just don't consider. Maybe we are indifferent towards most living beings, so we don't think about their well-being. And then, of course, there's other ones that may be nasty to you or whatever. Maybe you have some ill will towards them. That actually harms you immediately. So we need to give up that right now, okay? Whenever, if it ever arises, let it go. Be kind to yourself, let it go at that time. It's interesting because we decrease our self-centeredness, then naturally our compassion increases. In other words, I'll put it the other way. When we increase our compassion, we decrease our self-centeredness. In other words, we increase our happiness and decrease our suffering. Once again, like always, the law of karma is in play here. Karma and vipaka, the cause and the effect, the cycle. So one's own self-interest and wishes are fulfilled as a byproduct of actually working for the benefit of others. So when we work for the benefit of others, we actually don't have to try to cause our own happiness. It's happening naturally. And the more we do it and more becomes a habit, the more it multiplies. Hopefully you can see that, to fill a glass of water, even if you have only a drip coming out of the tap. It looks like in the beginning it's not filling at all, but after some time it fills. So it's likewise, we are continually and consistently practicing like this, then our compassion will naturally increase, and therefore our happiness will also increase. The more we do this, the more and the quicker we will realize our own aspirations. So our own wishes will be fulfilled. This is like the karma and the merit mentioned. We are creating the good karma, the good merit. And the more you do this without attachment or with very little attachment, the more it will multiply the good conditions. When you practice with no attachment, the merit becomes immeasurable, you could say at that time. But then, of course, if self-centeredness pops up, we kind of destroy it a bit, okay? So without making an effort ourselves, these things are not separate, by the way, ultimately. Bodhisattvas are wisely selfish. Ordinary beings are foolishly selfish. So even we say bodhisattvas, we are practicing our way towards enlightenment. We're ordinary beings maybe right now, but the wish is the bodhisattva intention towards enlightenment. This is actually using our self-centeredness wisely. This is all we have right now, this conditioned phenomena, conditioned mind, conditioned body, etc. That's what we have right now. So we work with it wisely to work our way towards enlightenment. But ordinary beings are foolishly selfish and just continually reinforcing the selfishness. So I think that's a good point to make. Okay, so maybe next week I'll pick it up there. But I will mention two other things. If we only think of ourselves and disregard others, we remain unhappy and miserable. Who wants to be miserable? Nobody. Even though we get attached to it too. Like we get attached to our distractions, as mentioned previously. Time has come, I think, right now to think more wisely. Why not? Whatever we've done in the past hasn't worked yet. We are not enlightened yet. We're not always happy yet even. So why don't we now be more wise? Develop this compassion. Give up our biases. What else are you going to do? Of course, we could just, turn the TV on. I'm not saying don't watch TV and enjoy yourself, okay? Do that as well. But at the same time, be wise, be compassionate. Maybe even contemplate. If you're watching a film or something, contemplate why these people behave like that. And the good people behaving well, follow that. See that as a good example. So I know we're just about to finish. I hope you have a good week ahead. Take care of yourselves, mentally and physically. I always rejoice in your goodness. And